Hello and welcome to Hobbit Talk, where we talk about all things Middle-earth. In today's episode, we'll discuss the history behind Tolkien's Balrogs. Accumulating little screen time, the Balrogs can often be underestimated and forgotten, but the truth is, these beasts pack a bigger punch than you'd think. Without wasting any time, let's just get right into the video. In Sindarin, the word Balrog means demon of might, from the words Bal, meaning power, and Rog, meaning demon. Balrogs were amongst the first creatures created by Iluvatar. This means that Balrogs were Maiar, just as Gandalf is. These menacing beasts would usually be seen wielding a flaming sword paired with an infamous fiery whip. These weapons of choice would consistently be lit and appear molten. Being Valar, Balrogs encapsulate and project dark shadows of power and terror to all their foes. Additionally, these demon-like creatures may have the power to alter the structure of their body at sheer will. This is most commonly seen in the battle between Durin's Bane and Gandalf, when the Balrog fell into a body of water and shifted himself into something dark and slimy. But some say that it was just a myth, and that it was just Gandalf's shocked description after seeing the Balrog for the first time with its flame extinguished. But this interpretation is not the only one that springs controversy. The description of the Balrog in Moria from the Bridge of Khazad-dûm in the 5th chapter of the Fellowship of the Ring raised the question of whether Balrogs were winged or not. There are two references in this chapter. The first one states, "His enemy halted again, facing him, and in the shadow about it, it reached out like two vast wings." And the second one states, "Suddenly it drew itself up to a great height, and its wings were spread from wall to wall." Tolkien's often ambiguous language leaves some room for speculation. The first quote seems to describe a Balrog covered in shadow that appears wing-like, and its later spread. However, the second quoted passage seems to indicate that this Balrog had actual wings that were spread out from wall to wall. The plain language here explicitly refers to wings. Another Tolkien reference may be taken as evidence for Balrog wings. Swiftly they arose, and they passed with winged speed over Hithlum, and they came to Lamoth, at the tempest of fire. This is either a metaphor for moving very quickly or a literal reference to the physical wings. It is the issue over the verb to fly which is mostly at the heart of the Balrog debate. On the other hand, the explicit reference to wings of shadow leaves open the interpretation that Balrogs had no wings. Balrogs were never exactly described as flying in any of Tolkien's words, including the winged speed language stated earlier. Furthermore, Durin's Bane seemingly fell to his ruin, apparently wingless, as Gandalf the White states, "I threw down my enemy, as he fell from the high place, and broke the mountainside where he smote it in his ruin." While winged Balrogs undoubtedly look cooler, I personally think that if Tolkien intended them to have wings, he would have wrote more beautifully horrifying images of the wings in action. But that's just me. What do you guys think? To fully understand these demon-like creatures, you must understand where they came from. Balrogs can be traced back as early as the Years of the Trees, when Morgoth and Ungoliant went to Valinor to destroy the two trees. At that point, the Balrogs remained in the pits of Angband. After Morgoth destroyed the trees with Ungoliant, he came to the ruins of Angband to renew his rule in Middle-earth. Shortly after, a disagreement with Ungoliant led to her attacking Morgoth, and he gave out a great cry that roused the Balrogs from their slumber. In a tempest of fire, the Balrogs drove Ungoliant away and prepared to pursue her. However, they were halted by Morgoth and returned to Angband, which shortly after was constructed anew. With their exceptional size and horrific looks, the Balrogs were exceptionally powerful creatures. Only 7 Balrogs were required to drive away Ungoliant, a large monster powerful enough to devour the fruits of Teleporion, which produced the light for billions of stars. Debatably the most well-known Balrog, Durin's Bane, managed to drive off the dwarves of Moria from their ancient and supremely fortified nation-state, which was at the time the greatest kingdom of dwarves that had ever been. This occurred when the dwarves had mined too deep in search for Mithril. After slaying Dwarf King Durin VI, the Balrog was given the name Durin's Bane. During the War of the Ring, the Fellowship went through Moria and encountered Durin's Bane, which pursued them to the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. Gandalf the Grey fought the Balrog, allowing the Fellowship to escape Moria. Both fell into the abyss, but the battle continued at the peak of Zarakazil. Finally, it ended, but both Gandalf and Durin's Bane were slain in the process. However, Gandalf was later sent back by the Valar as Gandalf the White. Another significant Balrog takes the name of Gothmog, who fought against and overcame Feanor, an elf who was powerful enough to control the light of the two trees. Gothmog also spread chaos through the city of Gondolin, filled with elves of similar though far lower caliber. He was even thought to be at least somewhat comparable to Sauron during the First Age. There is so much that could be said about Gothmog, but that's a tale for another day. You might have been surprised to hear that there was more than one Balrog. With that said, Tolkien made note in his later writings that there could have not been more than 7 Balrogs. His son Christopher Tolkien later also confirmed, "In the margin my father wrote, there should not be supposed more than 3 or at most say 7 ever existed." Well, that's the video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed and learned something new. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos regarding Middle-earth in the future. And as always, farewell.